Being real, building the church, part 4. Many parts to this as we started to look at the building of the church and how to build the church now. It really went all the way back and really started discovering a lot of things about how the church was constructed over history, how it worked, and then really going back to narrowing in on the first century church. And that's where we're spending our time. There's a lot to it. There's just a lot to it. So anyway, week 4, what we did is we looked at part 4. Part 4, what we did is we looked at the chronological order of the epistles from Paul. And we also looked at the chronological order of all the epistles that are in the letters. Epistle equals letter. The letters that are in the New Testament. So there are 21-ish. Paul wrote 13. So we not only looked at that order, but we also looked at the order with all of the other letters, and discovered that James was the first letter written by pretty much all accounts. And that's the other thing that we did, is we looked at 3 different sources for the chronological order of the letters and showed that they differed. And I'll put that up here. And the reason we looked at that was we wanted to show that, yes, we know roughly where the letters are by piecing things together, but not necessarily exactly, and there are some differences of opinion on when certain things were done. And if it's not crystal clear, we're not going to make that be a source of division or anything crazy like that. So we really just wanted to have a general idea of when about they were written, because it gives you some more context. And that's really what we were doing. We didn't want to chase down, it wasn't written in 42 AD, it was in the scheme of things, if we're supposed to know exactly when it was written, pretty sure God would have told us. So we do our best to have an understanding of the chronological order, a lot of times going to Acts to do that, and that's like the connecting of all the different letters and things. Other stuff that people do, but basically the point is this. We looked at those differences, said we want to make sure we're not, if we don't know for sure when it was done, we should use more general terms. And that doesn't take away from the importance of the letter or anything like that. It's just not one of those things we should worry too much about. We just want to have as much context as possible that we know is correct. If we don't know it's correct, then we just go, oh, okay, we don't know that for sure. I don't know is a really good thing for us to say, especially when it comes to godly things, by the way. I don't know, just a thought. Anyway, so the next thing we looked at was, or the other thing we looked at was a map. I'll put that up here. And as we had the map up, we were just to get an idea of where things were. Because a lot of times we read and we don't really try to visualize what's actually going on. I didn't realize how far Paul traveled back in those times. And then we talked about why there are certain gaps in years or the years that were listed, for certain things. And it's most of the time probably travel time, and you can't sit and write maybe if you're in a ship going on the sea. But anyway, so Paul's letters, we talked about, more generally, wherever there was consensus, it's like, yeah, this was written here, this was written here. But there's some stuff like Galatians and Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians, 2nd, and those were, okay. So, talked about that. The other thing we did is we realized that James was first. And wanted to learn a little bit more about James, just like we did with Paul. Paul, we did an eyewitness, the Eyewitness Bible narrative. How else do you say that? Anyway, we did the same thing with James to get a little bit of a feel of who he was. Again, getting an idea of who he was. It's really cool, and it seems to really kind of hit home when you see somebody playing that role and giving you some more insight, or just a kind of a different feel for it. Obviously, we're checking everything against Scripture, but that's what we did. So we watched this like an 18-minute video, I think, of James, just to get a feel for who he was, and then we talked a little bit about that. But it was really, we kind of cut it short. We started a little bit late and cut it short. This was actually the first time that I want to say we were just all tired. We were all tired. We were just kind of spent, and the group's about being real. So we were just kind of real with, should we sit here and talk? Should we, or can we just say, let's go home tonight? And then we ended up getting into it, and we spent about an hour and 15 minutes together, just talking about those things that we just went over. But that was really it for the meeting. Just got into a little bit of stuff, set some groundwork for what's to come, and going into the next week, we're going to do some self-study. Going to try something a little different. It'll be self-study concept that you can do on your own time. And what we're doing with that, because we're not going to meet officially on Thursday, what we're going to do with that is have everybody come prepared the following week for a really good discussion. And the best way to have that really good discussion is for us to do some studying on our own. So that's what we're going to do going into next week. But that's really much, that's pretty much the summary for this past week's Being Real. And really talked about James and tried to look at, the geography of the letters, where they were written, and in the chronological order, just to get a feel as we move forward. Thanks for watching. Keep being real.